Have you ever felt unloved? Have you ever felt like you had no purpose? Have you ever walked into a room and even though it was crowded full of people, you still felt alone? You still felt that something was missing. You felt incomplete. That's who I was. That was me. For the longest time, my biggest struggle was trying to fill this void that was inside of me that only God could have filled. For me, I tried filling it with friends. I tried fitting in at school, and I tried to find a purpose. And basically my life was just centered around skateboarding and hanging out with my friends. If anybody knows this, that if you're trying to fill a void, at some point, whatever you're trying to do, whatever you're trying to use to fill that void is going to be a waste of time. It's not going to mean anything. It's not going to really satisfy that hunger. Over time, I got pretty good at skateboarding. I got a little sponsorship. And at that point, skateboarding was no longer fun for me. It was no longer fun for my friends. It got way too serious, and something that skateboarding represented for me freedom. It represented fun. But at that point in time, after being sponsored, it became work. It became a burden. It became stressful. It was no longer fun. I didn't feel free, but I felt bound. I mean, Christian values was definitely a part of my upbringing. But my knowledge of who God was in the Bible, that was very small. I really didn't know much about what it meant to be a Christian. I didn't know what it really meant to have a relationship with God. But deep down inside, I knew that that's what I wanted. And it took me to the point, my 8th grade year was when I really started questioning my faith in God. I was really starting to question, if there's a God, why do I feel so much anger? Why do I feel so much hurt? And I realized that, okay, if anything, I need God right now. But it seemed like no matter what, no matter how many times I prayed, no matter how many times I asked for God to reveal Himself to me, it seemed like I got no answer. And it was discouraging. And that's when I became very angry. That year, I mean, I was always a good student, but that school year, my grades just dropped. I was depressed all the time. I was angry at my family, just anybody. I was angry at family, friends, and I acted out on this anger. And it wasn't that I was angry at them, it was more that I was angry at myself, and I was angry at God, and I was confused and I was frustrated because it just seemed like I felt alone. I felt like I had no purpose, and I was sick of feeling those things. I had a friend, I met him in 1st grade, and I've known him my whole life, and he was, if anything, I would say he was the only true Christian friend that I had. He had these videos of these Christian skateboarders that they would share their testimonies, and they said that they used to be drug addicts, that they used to be alcoholics, and they got to the same point where, kind of with me, that they're trying to fill a void. But then they realized that only God was the one that could fill that void. At the end of these videos, they'd say, okay, if you pray this prayer, and you accept Jesus in your heart, you'll be saved. I prayed that prayer hundreds of times. Sincerely, I meant it with my whole being, because I knew that I needed God so badly. I prayed those prayers all the time. I never felt that presence that they talked about. I never felt like my life was changed after that point. I thought that, maybe the reason why God isn't, revealing Himself to me is because maybe I'm too evil. And that was my biggest thing. I thought that I was so wicked and so full of sin that God didn't want to save me, that I wasn't good enough to go to heaven. But I kept hearing all these stories about how Jesus died on the cross for me, and how He suffered and bore the sin of the world, my sin, and took it to the cross. So I remember sitting with Charlie again, my friend Charlie, and I remember just one day I was feeling really hopeless. I said to him, Charlie, I don't think I'm going to go to heaven. And he kept reassuring me like, yeah, man, you're going to go to heaven, you're going to go to heaven. But deep down inside, I felt like I wasn't going to go to heaven. I felt like that I was too evil to be in heaven, that only good people went to heaven. I remember praying a prayer to God saying, God, if you're real, if you don't reveal yourself to me, then I'm going to throw my life away. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. I'm going to go party. But something inside me kept saying, don't give up on God. Keep seeking Him. It seemed like just shortly after I prayed that prayer that my family, we started going to Liberty Church in Grand Ledge. I remember the youth group, they were doing this outdoor like concert thing. And there's a preacher that a guest speaker named Jason McGee from South Flint. I was sitting next to Caden Everett, and Jerry Zimmerman, he walked up to Caden. He said, hey Caden, you got to come up here and worship with us. You know, you're missing out, man, come on. So Caden looks at me and he said, you want to go up there? So I said, sure. So I was standing up there, and they're singing worship songs, and all of a sudden Jason McGee walks up to me, and he knew nothing about me, and I didn't even know who he was. And he walked up to me and he said, have you received the Holy Ghost? And this kind of goes back to where my knowledge of the Bible and God was very small. I thought what he was trying to say or trying to ask me was, do you believe in God? That was seriously the thought that went through my mind. So I said yes. And then he asked me, do you want to receive the Holy Ghost? And I said yes. Next thing I knew, he started praying with me. He started leading me through prayer and stuff. And at first, you know, I was uncomfortable because what was happening, I wasn't sure what was going on. So I started, you know, kind of praying with him and stuff. And like all of a sudden I started feeling like all these hands all over me. People were praying for me. Like I started to feel like there's this weight on top of me. And like my legs began to shake. My body just started shaking. And then I just started crying. I remember God speaking to me in that moment. He said, I'm going to prove to you that I'm real. Because just a few weeks before, I said, God, you haven't proven to me that you're real. I haven't seen you, I haven't felt you, or anything like that. So you need to show yourself to me. And right there he answered my prayer. He said, I'm going to prove that I'm real. I'm going to prove to you that this is what you've been looking for this whole time. So at that moment, that's when I really started breaking down. It felt like the weight was lifted off of me. And it just felt like all the anger that I had, all these feelings of loneliness and shame and guilt and everything, worthlessness, just began to fall off of me. And like I got the Holy Ghost. I got filled with God's Spirit right there out in the church parking lot. I felt alive for the first time in my entire life. I felt like, even though I knew nothing about the people that were around me, I felt in some way, I felt like we had something in common. And I felt like I could run like 100 miles or more. Like I had so much energy, and I don't know, I just felt alive. I felt renewed and I felt free. And no longer from that point did I feel like I was alone. I'm Jackson Brooks, and this is why I'm Apostolic.